The Kribi Industrial Port Complex, with a surface area of more than 26,000 hectares, is located in the town of Mboro, 35 kilometers south of the seaside city of Kribi in Cameroon. Born of the Cameroonian authorities' desire to improve the economic growth rate by mobilizing domestic resources that up until that point were underexploited, this complex is part of a general development plan carried out by the steering committee in collaboration with the Dutch group Royal Haskoning. The Kribi Industrial Port Complex is made up of four main parts: a deepwater port with roughly 20 wharfs, a zone for industrial and logistics activity, a multimodal transport corridor, a new city. With the goal of making the complex a perfectly integrated entity, the four parts will have an interrelated dynamic that will influence the structural and functional development of the whole. The Deepwater Port, built in successive phases, will be able to accommodate ships with a draft of more than 15 meters. Its primary purpose will be to serve the large zone of industrial and logistics activities that surrounds it and which will develop thanks to its attraction. Its facilities, which will be among the most modern in sub-Saharan Africa, will generate a large amount of traffic which will assure its long-term relevance and economic viability. Large industrial areas will be created around the port with specialized terminals for containers, hydrocarbon, different ores that will be mined in the interior of the country and transformed in the industrial zone, and much more. The Multimodal Corridor will be the backbone of the complex and will, on the functional level, assure the fluid circulation of the traffic from the outer harbor towards the interior of Cameroon and other adjacent countries, but also in the direction from the hinterland towards the industrial port complex. The internal circulation routes from all the parts of the industrial zone and the new city will link up to this. With the increase in industrial activity and traffic, a flourishing economy will develop in the complex and will attract a flow of active population with a varied skill set who will be able to practice different professions in and around this vast zone. In terms of direct employment, 20,000 people are expected to lead the economic activities generated by the growing industrialization of the complex. For the resulting population, estimated to be 80,000 people, to take into account the families of the workers, there are plans to create a new town. The town's development will be in direct correlation to the industrial, logistical, and port activities. In this manner, beyond the purely industrial activities that will flourish around the port, the new town will be at the center of other activities, in this case, social, commercial, and recreational. To facilitate connections between the shopping centers and the various services they offer, the educational complexes and the recreational centers which will flourish in the new city, and the modern residential housing that will be created, new circulation routes and better modes of transportation will gradually appear. In a short time, the complex will be transformed into a modern city, based on the industrial port complex's activity, which will cause new economic activity to emerge, that will extend to other sectors such as service, commerce, research, transportation, and culture. The Kribi Industrial Port Complex will then be able to open itself to the world thanks to the effect of external demand. The exchanges that will come about from the economic and touristic activity will make Kribi a hub within the Central African sub-region with maritime and air connections to all large global centers of economic activity. The Kribi Deepwater Port, the first great undertaking of Cameroon's grand ambitions.